was a beautiful summer morning on the coastal line, and Duck and Oliver were working hard. Toad, in particular, was quite enjoying himself.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore.
What are you saying back there, Toad? Asked Oliver.
Never mind me, Mr. Oliver. I suppose I'm just in an Italian mood this morning.
What's that even supposed to mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's that new restaurant just past Bluff's Cove. They're always playing the most wonderful music when we pass.
Oliver was puzzled. That's what that place is. I hadn't noticed.
Oh, yes. The place with the big garden by the line.
Oh, yes. That place, thought Oliver. He didn't know what use he would have for Italian food, but he did like music. As Oliver puffed by, he could hear the music. He blew his whistle to say hello, but as he passed by, an older woman stepped out of the garden, waved her fist, and shouted rudely at him. Oh, so that's how it is now, grunted Oliver, but Toad was too busy humming along to even notice. I never, grumbled Oliver, as he puffed into Alsborough.
What's all the fuss about you two? Chuckled Bert. Mr. Oliver is overthinking. That's all,
sighed Toad. I am not. Are you sure about that? Asked Douglas. I most certainly am. That woman was most horrid. Oh, I see you met Maria. Maria? Asked Oliver. You know, at Luigi's. Now, who's Luigi?
Mr. Luigi, replied Toad, is the owner of the new restaurant.
And Maria, continued Douglas, is the poor man's wife. That horrid devil woman. She hates when engines come whistling by. If I had to say, I'd guess the location of said establishment was yon Luigi's decision. Devil woman, indeed, muttered Oliver.
But the question is, Mr. Douglas, how does one solve a problem like Ms. Maria?
That I'll leave to you, laddies, chuckled Douglas, as Oliver puffed away. Over the next few days, it was always the same. As Oliver and Duck passed by with their daily trains, all they could hear were shouts and swears. The two engines tried to tune it out, but it was becoming ever so tiring. Even poor Toad had his mood soured, and no longer felt like singing. One afternoon, though, as Oliver was taking the last ballast train down to Tidmouth, it happened. He was puffing by all the same. There was Maria standing right there in her garden by the fence. As Oliver passed by, he felt a hard thud right on his smokebox. His driver applied the brakes and brought him to a quick stop. Oh, what was that? He exclaimed. And there, on his running board, was a big, fat turnip. He wasn't hurt. A small vegetable was nothing to a heavy steam engine, but he quickly realised what had happened. He stared at Maria and let out the loudest, longest whistle he had in him. She covered her ears and began shouting as she ran back to the restaurant. But no one could hear a thing over Oliver. When Oliver finished, he said not a word and continued on his way to Tidmouth. He had made his point quite clear.
Oh dear,
whispered Toad to himself. I didn't want to do it, Oliver fumed in the sheds that night. But you know just as well yourself, Duck, she was nothing but a daily nuisance. I can't imagine our passengers much like the sound of her vulgar language either. Well, yes, but I say you did what needed doing, agreed Donald. Maybe, but I don't think this is going to pass all so quietly. Unfortunately, Douglas was right. When the engines awoke next morning, there in front of Oliver stood Sir Topham Hatt. Oliver, he boomed. Oliver gulped. I have other business to attend to this morning and don't much have time for this, so let me make myself quite clear. I don't particularly care what someone's opinion on you or your whistle is. If you continue to use it like that, I'll make quite sure your whistle is all that's left. Do I make myself clear? Yes, sir, stammered Oliver. Good. I shall talk to you more later. I'm afraid to say not much changed after that. Every day, there she was, yelling and shouting as engines passed. But Oliver couldn't do a thing. He grew more and more fed up. He was tired of having to go past the restaurant every time he came up for ballast, but he didn't have a choice. "She can't keep it up forever, can she?" grumbled Mike, who was just as tired of hearing about it every day as Oliver was of dealing with it.
Apparently she can, muttered Toad. Just give it time.
"Time, Bert? It's been weeks! If I could speak to her directly, you bet I'd make it stop. Goodbye!" And Oliver left again with his ballast. Little did he know, however, his wish would soon come true, in a way that he probably didn't intend. As he came back down the line, there was Maria, right on cue. He prepared himself for more vegetables, but she never got the time to throw them. Suddenly, without warning, Oliver jerked about and quickly felt himself lifted off the rails. The hot summer sun had buckled the line, and with no time to stop, Oliver was off the rails and crunching tarmac. He came to a stop as he felt his wheels sink into the soft dirt of the garden. Maria, who had ran for cover, was horrified.
You're a horrid, awful, disgusting engine!"
Maria shouted.
"You've ruined my beautiful garden!"
"Being covered in vegetables is nothing new for me, if you don't mind," Oliver grumbled. "Frankly, it serves you right," said the driver, as he climbed down from the cab, trying not to slip in the crushed tomatoes. "If you'll excuse me, we need to borrow your telephone, if that's not too much of a bother, of course." And they went inside to phone for help. Unfortunately for Oliver, the breakdown train was busy on the other side of the island. Duck arrived with a coach for the driver and fireman. But, for Toad and Oliver, it was going to be a long night. The next morning, Oliver and Toad were sound asleep, when they were abruptly awoken.
"Mamma mia!"
Came a voice. It was the owner of the restaurant, Chef Luigi himself.
"What a wonderful engine!"
Oliver and Toad couldn't believe what they were hearing. "I'm terribly sorry about your garden, sir," said Oliver. "I hope you have enough vegetables inside."
"Oh, don't worry at all. This wasn't even for the restaurant. This was my wife's personal garden. She can replant everything, and my restaurant, she wanna be fine. I just love the steam engine so much. That's why I built my business here. I'm always too busy during the day to see anything go by. I just never imagined one would be the customer."
Well, neither did we, Mr. Luigi, sir,
muttered Toad.
"You know, I've had the most wonderful idea. Would you like to be my special attraction for the day? If it's alright with your controller, of course."
"I don't see why not," came a familiar voice. "I'm afraid to say the breakdown train is still at Vickerstown after last night. I won't be back here until this evening at the earliest. I believe Oliver would make a wonderful attraction for your diners. I'm sure they'd love some outdoor seating, and I think it would make a nice lesson anyhow." Oliver didn't exactly agree, but he didn't have much of a choice either. That evening, customers came from all over Sodor for Luigi's newest special, the Oliver's Garden, a heaping helping of linguine loaded with green vegetables. Everyone was enjoying themselves immensely, even to his own surprise, Oliver. The next morning, however, Oliver was finally pulled from the garden and put back on the rails. And from that night onwards, passing by Luigi's was a happy occasion. Luigi always made time to come to the fence and wave, as Oliver whistled happily by. He hardly saw Maria anymore, and everything was much more peaceful.
Oh, Mr. Oliver, would you like some spaghetti? Oh, what about some ravioli? Oh, mamma mia.